G'day, I'm Matt Brett. I was awarded an Equity Fellowship with the National Centre for Student Equity in Higher Education in 2017. I'm still an adjunct fellow with the National Centre, and this is in addition to my role as Director of Academic Governance and Standards at Deakin University. I understand that you might be interested in more information about the Equity Fellows program, so I hope you find what I'm about to say useful. I'd considered boring you with hours of anecdotes and reflections around what it means to be an Equity Fellow, but instead I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet. And I'm going to structure my thoughts in line with questions that were asked of me last week by a group of Year 10 students as part of a HEP-funded outreach activity. This framing, I hope, connects the work of the Equity Fellow with what it's trying to do in terms of making Australian higher education more accessible and of higher quality. And it also highlights the important work that's going on across the sector that the Equity Fellowships seek to build upon and enhance. So, question 1 from these Year 10 students. What advice would you give to yourself as a Year 10 student, or for the purposes of this video, pre-application for an Equity Fellowship? It's a really good and very difficult question. My project from the outset on equity, performance and accountability was really quite ambitious. So don't try to hide or limit your ambition. You've got to think big. Keep your feet on the ground though. Everyone wants you to succeed. You'll find that doors will open and people will be very generous in their time and support. But to do justice to your fellowship and your ambitions, you've got to create the time and space to process the wisdom and knowledge that you'll be exposed to, and you will also generate yourself. The fellowship is an amazing opportunity to build on the legacy of those with a passion for more equitable higher education system that precedes you. You're going to walk the corridors of power, and you're going to inform enduring relationships with and connections to the policymakers in the Department of Education and Training. And you'll find that they're as committed to equity in higher education as you are. But you'll also see that they see the sector from a very different vantage point. The insight into their world is priceless. You've got to have fun with this project. You've got to enjoy the ride, but by all means be prepared to take a deep breath and make time for reflection. Don't leave this to chance. You're going to be really busy, so make sure your project plan integrates this time and space. On to question 2. What does success look like to you? These Year 10 kids sure know how to ask some very difficult questions. So, success for me in the context of the Equity Fellowship is about seeing positive change to equity in higher education flow from the research that I undertook. For a year, I grappled with some really challenging ideas and issues, and they ultimately found a home in a report for which I'm really, really proud of. I can draw a really clear connection between the conversations, the presentations, and the words on a page that my fellowship enabled, and subsequent positive developments in Australian higher education. I see this connection evident in the work of all the Equity Fellows, and I know that I'm going to be humbled in future to be just one of a group of Equity Fellows whose future work is going to far exceed my own. To just kind of illustrate that you can actually do things of substance that flow on and have a real impact with the fellowship. The first kind of priority for change in my fellowship report was to refine the equity goals for Australian higher education. And it was a real privilege and also an honour to have the support of the National Centre to be part of a collaborative effort and national consultation that went on to produce the best chance for all, a long-term policy vision for Australian higher education. Question 3, the last question. How did you get your current job? Again, I'll take this from the perspective of the Equity Fellowship and my adjunct role with the National Centre. And I would say that in reflection, I wouldn't have been successful had I not had a passion for equity. I wouldn't have been successful had I not had a clearly defined, ambitious but still deliverable project. Nor had I not had the support of my employer at the time, La Trobe University, and I'm also really grateful for their support for me undertaking this really important work. I'd also like to think that the selection panel were able to see my core leadership values: humility, integrity and competence. And I'm forever grateful for them for supporting my fellowship application, the project, and also transition to life post-fellowship. So I wish you well with your application, and I look forward to you leaving my work in the dust. Goodbye.